Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming out and celebrating Nattu's life with us. Thank you, Marianne, for organizing this today. Before I get started and introducing those who are going to speak about Nattu today, I'd first like to say a little something about him. As many of you know, he was a very big proponent in the Intelligent Systems Club. He went to many competitions with the club. The one that he most notably went to was probably the autonomous snowplow competition. And everyone there knew him. And this year at the competition, when our teams went, it was clear that his absence was felt. And the competition actually has an award that they award every year for best sportsmanship. And normally it is named the Golden Smile Award, but this year they renamed it to the Dr. Nattu Golden Smile Award. And I felt it was very appropriate because Nattu was always the one cheering on every team. He was always the one making sure that everyone learned and gained something from the experience and had a good time because he always joked around. So for those of you that didn't know that, that's a really good way to present Nattu because he really deserved that award. And he was just so good with our club and spent so much time with our members in and out of class. So we really appreciate Nattu, and thank you all again for coming. I'd like to present Priya first, his daughter.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. It's really great to hear all the stories about my dad and see how well he was loved and respected by so many people. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I thought about all the great traits that my dad had. You know, he was really generous, he had a passion for teaching, he had a great sense of humor. But I think that everybody in this room already knows all of those things about him. So instead, I'm going to talk about the question that I was asked the most when I first came to UMD, which was, what was it like having Nattu as a father growing up? I got this question over and over and over, as if it was like something very strange. And to me, I honestly didn't know how to answer that question. I said, well, what is it like not having Nattu as a father growing up? But in a word, it was a lot of fun. When I was very young, even at an early age, I knew my dad was not like other dads, you know. Other dads would get up in the morning, go to work, do their day of work, come home, very routine-based. Dad was not like that. He would sleep in every morning as much as he could. If he had to get up early, and by early I mean he had a 10 o'clock class, he would wake up and scramble around the house, oh my God, I'm late, and then rush out the door last minute. He had a schedule that would change every semester depending on his course load, and if he was teaching a 6 to 9 class, he wouldn't get home till 10:30, long after we had all gone to bed. So basically he lived this dream life. He got to sleep in, he got to stay up late, it was every kid's dream, right? Who didn't want to stay up past bedtime and sleep in through school? So that was what my dad was when I was very young. And then I think most kids think that their parents know everything. But really, Dad knew everything. If I had a question about anything, I could go ask him. It didn't matter the subject. It could be about literature. It could be about science. It could be about engineering. It could be about math. It could be about politics, economics, industrial engineering. I found out, much to my surprise, I was like, oh, I'm going into a field that Dad doesn't teach. And then he told me that he actually did teach operations research, in the early days of his career as a professor. He brought up the first edition of the textbook that I was using in class. I was using the 17th edition. He was like, oh, it's dusty, but I taught from it, right? So he really knew everything, and he was really the Wikipedia for the pre-Wikipedia age. Anything I had any doubts about, I could ask him. And once I got a little older, I started to figure out that much like Wikipedia, sometimes the information was a little suspect and you should maybe question the source a little and not take everything for granted. But no, really, he knew a lot about a lot of different things. And then, in school, he always taught us when we had questions. So I knew he was a good teacher. Of course, he could have been a better teacher. I think somehow the patience he had with the students didn't translate over to his kids. For some reason, I don't know why, he just assumed that his children should already know the answers by pure osmosis or genetics. I don't know exactly. So if we had the same exact question a student would ask, if we would ask the question, he'd get really frustrated with us. Don't you know this already? No, Dad, I'm 12, I don't know. So, but he was a good teacher, and I knew he was well-liked, but it wasn't until I came to U of M Dearborn myself that I really began to understand what that meant. In the first semester I was here, we were carpooling, and I would want to leave because I would be hungry. And on our way out, some student would stop him, and he would stop, talk to the student, answer questions, ask more questions. What are you doing about this project? Well, have you looked at this resource? Have you gone here? Have you gone there? And I would wait patiently, and then we would be done with that conversation and move on another 10 feet before being stopped by another student. Then repeat, right? And so when he would say, okay, we're going home at 6, and I would think, okay, good, because I'm hungry, let's go home and eat dinner, it would end up being 6, 6:30, 7. Always there would be students coming, stopping him in the hallways, as he was clearly out the door, but students didn't feel that they need to stand on ceremony. And of course that was frustrating for me as a hungry daughter who's dependent on him for a ride. But at the same time, it was really, it made me really proud that he was my dad, that he could help so many people, and that people felt so comfortable coming to him at any time, anywhere, and that he was really willing to help. And I saw that a lot while I was here on campus. Students would come to him, they would phone him, even, he'd been sick for a while. Even in the hospital, I have a video of it because I thought it was ridiculous. A student had called him about questions on a lab assignment, and he's sitting here in the ICU, hooked up to all these machines and giving the guy, help on a homework assignment. I'm like, Dad, get some rest. What are you doing, But he really wanted to help people, and if they sought him out, he was more than willing to devote his time to them. I really enjoyed a lot of fame as his daughter because he's really well known. So people would always know me, oh, you're Nattu's daughter, you're Nattu's daughter. And I have to admit that I shamelessly made friends my early semesters here by just sharing stories of his life outside campus. Oh, when my dad was little, he got into all of these mischievous pranks, and people would think they were hilarious and want to hear more, and I made so many friends, and it was great. I definitely played on my dad's fame to make myself known. A really funny thing about that was when I was a student here, I was also working in the math department, and I was working in the math lab. And of course, students who are freshmen come to the math department for their prereqs before they come to the engineering department. So the first few years, I was always, oh, you're Priya, you're Nattu's daughter. And I would say, yes, I am. Well, 2 or 3 years into my tenure as a student here, my dad got a taste of that because a student came up to him and said, oh, you're Priya's dad. And he was like, no, I've been here way, way longer than she has. She's not I'm not her dad, she's my daughter, what, And it really threw him off, and he came to me and he said, Priya, this happened, and it was so strange. And I was laughing. I was like, see, my fame precedes you now. So, but I think that really speaks to his time here and his character, that so many people knew him, so many people felt like they were a part of his lives to the point that they really embraced me when I came here too. I was Nattu's daughter. I met so many people as Nattu's daughter, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And I'm really, really glad that I came here for my undergraduate education, because I don't think I would have seen that side of my dad at all if I had gone anywhere else. In fact, I can almost say for certainty that I definitely would not have seen that side of my dad if I had not been here. So I really want to thank everyone here for, loving my dad as much as, he loved everyone here. And then also just for extending that to us, his family. So thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce the chair of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, Paul Richardson.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this time where we can gather, we can talk about a tremendous colleague. Lots been said. I wanted to share a few stories of my experiences with Nattu that I've had in the 16 years I've been here. Nattu intellectually, I was confused. I was a young faculty. I had a controls problem I was working on, and I stopped him in the hallway and I asked him, can you give me a simple explanation of this? And he grabbed a piece of paper and he started drawing diagrams and equations. And after a while he stopped and he showed it to me. And I looked at the paper and I looked at him and I said, I wanted the simple version. And he looked at me and he said, it is. And I learned something about Nattu and the simple version at that point. Nattu and toughness. I got an email from Nattu recently. He said, I might be a little bit late. I'm having a test done. And I was thinking, okay, a blood test or something like that. I found out he had an angioplasty. That's where they drill a hole in your femoral artery and run a tube up your femoral artery into your heart and poke around with a camera. And they sedate you completely for that. That's not a test. And that's not, I'm going to be a little bit late. That's something, but that's just the way he was. He's like, I might be a little bit late. Nattu and student devotion. We had an incident last fall that was getting a little bit ugly. We had a veteran student, and he was terribly injured. He had some very, very severe life-threatening injuries, and he spent 3 years in physical rehab. And he had some brain damage, and he had some difficulties, and he was exhibiting some very aggressive behavior. Up until the point I told him, look, you're getting close to graduation, you're going to blow it if you don't cut it out. That student came up to me about a month ago and said he wants to know what's going on with Nattu because Nattu started tutoring him. That Nattu stayed with him in the labs until 2 o'clock in the morning, tutoring him. And that student is very close to graduating now and just completely changing his life. He has a future employer who's placed stock in him. And this student's about to embark in a life that he didn't know existed. And had not Nattu stepped in when he did and the way he did, and somewhat anonymously, that student's life could have been very different. We can't replace Nattu. As chair, that's dawned on me. I'm looking at a number of ways. There's not one single human being that is going to replace Nattu, but Nattu is living on in the students that he's touched, in the colleagues that he's touched. Just as a giving person, he's imparted part of himself to so many people. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. Now I'd like to introduce Chancellor Daniel Little.
Good afternoon. This has been a sad couple of weeks for the Dearborn community and for the college as well. And it is really uplifting to be able to come together today and to remember with happiness about Nattu's influence, his good sense of humor, his smarts. I love that story, Paul, about the simple version. Makes a lot of sense in terms of the man that I came to know. And to share those stories, share that appreciation, is really uplifting, and it's a good thing. And it does help us kind of create a long footprint or long shadow of Nattu here on this campus. We are a community, and Nattu is a very important part of that community, and we think of him today, and we think of him with affection and appreciation, and for many of us, we think of him with love. So today is such an important day, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. What I wanted to share with you is also, it's something that makes me smile. But a lot of people come to my office and they've got heavy, important things that they want to talk about, and they've waited several weeks to have an appointment. But something that has recurred over many years now, I've been in that very same office for over 15 years. Someone out front, Adele, often would say, Professor Nattu is outside, he needs to talk to you pretty urgently. And so I would pop my head out, and Nattu would say, we've got the team, they're right outside. It might be winter, and it was snowplows, or it might be summer or spring, and it was lawnmowers. But he was so eager to have me interact with the teams, to allow them to explain the innovations that they'd made, the potential, the power of these robotic devices that take care of things. They don't do vacuum cleaning, but they do a lot of other useful things. It was so charming to me to see the obvious caring and concern and engagement which Nattu had with these successive teams of young people, men and women, working on these projects in a very intense way, learning through these projects, learning through the activity of their minds and their hands, and learning to be great engineers as a result. I can almost remember each of those times when there would be the knock on the door. And I can remember standing outside of the administration building on a very, very cold day, looking down at this device that had done a little bit of sidewalk and thinking, I'm glad I'm here. This is really a worthwhile thing to do. I didn't know Nattu as well as many of you in the room, and I know that your feelings are all complex and so positive and so affected. But I just want to share with you that the university as a whole also grieves for the loss of Nattu, and we remember him with friendship and with a smile. And that was really the man. I never saw him not smiling. It's one of the reasons I loved seeing this photograph today. I also have the opportunity to announce this afternoon that Dean England, Paul Richardson, and Kate Davey, the provost, have been working together pretty intensively over the past week, and I am now empowered to say that the university is able to create a new collegiate professorship. It will be a collegiate professorship in engineering education in the name of Professor Nattu Natarajan. And I believe that is a spectacular way of recalling and recognizing and honoring his legacy here on the campus. So it is a great pleasure that I'm able to make that announcement, and thanks to the very good work that Tony England and Kate Davey and Paul Richardson did to bring it about. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Little. Now I'd like to introduce the Dean of College of Engineering and Computer Science, Anthony England. Thank you.
Tony, please. I can always tell when there's a solicitor on the telephone. They say, is Anthony England there? And the only ones that ever used that Anthony were my parents and people trying to get money. So there you go. I probably didn't know Nattu nearly as well as almost everybody in the room. I've only been here 3.5 years. But it didn't take very long to understand the impact that Nattu was having on the college. One of the things I'd share with you, that was a couple of years ago. There's a forum, an internet forum email where people can sort of share ideas around the university. It was about a year ago, maybe even a little longer than that, that there was some big topic. I've forgotten what it was. But Nattu got involved and started writing these very erudite, very thoughtful, but very long expositions. And every day, the email would be filled up with one of these things. The provost asked me at one of the meetings, just casually, she's enjoying reading those things, but is there any way to encourage Nattu to shorten them a bit? And by that time, I knew Nattu well enough to say, no, there's no way. So, anyway, when a new dean starts, he or she holds a forum, and in that forum, you present the things that you would like to do, to achieve. And one of the things the thing that was on the top of my list was to place greater emphasis on experiential learning. And one of the things I learned very quickly here was that Nattu was an ally in that. So in many ways, that whole effort, and it's now we have experiential learning tracks in each of our undergraduate programs and some other characteristics of that, and we hope to make it our honors program over time. Is really, I can look at it as a legacy of Nattu because we're just following in what he was doing. So I really very much appreciate how he's helped us be the college we are. And I thank all of you for coming, acknowledging that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Tony England. Now I'd like to introduce Professor Sridhar from the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department.
Hi. Most of you may not know, but in the Hindu tradition, when someone near and dear passes on, we sort of go through a 13-day ritual. The first 10 days are devoted to preparing the spirit to move away from the planet and reach towards heaven, I guess. But the 13th day is a day of celebration. We celebrate the life of the person that moved on. And today is supposed to be a happy day. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about Nattu because what he has done for the department, what he has done for the college is something we all should celebrate. Most of you have already spoken about so many good features of Nattu. I'm going to single out a few items. August 1988 was a milestone month for me. The reason is, I was sitting in my office, I was the chair of the department, and a young man dressed in suit was at the counter. And I said, "Can I help you?" "Yes, I want to talk to you." And got him into my office, and he said, "I'm looking for a faculty position. I heard that Dearborn is searching for one." I said, "Yes." He had brought his resume, looked at it. I said, "This is something we should definitely call for an interview." At that time, we did not have a search committee at all. I was the search committee. The department had 7 faculty members. 3 of them would only show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays. So I was the search committee. So I arranged an interview. It was attended by 3 people. And they said he gave a good talk. And so I looked at it. I had lunch with him. During the talk, I became aware of what I did not know. This man was full of knowledge, full of ideas, full of, you name a topic, he had something positive to say, something meaningful to say. I said, we need him. So I went to the dean. I said, I've interviewed him. He has given a seminar. He can communicate well. He'll be a good teacher. I would like to hire him. And the dean was moving on. He was going to resign and moving on to Toledo as dean. He said, Sridhar, it's your call if you make an offer. Made an offer. In September, he was with us. So I'm very proud of the fact that I was instrumental in bringing in an outstanding individual to the campus. And you have seen the results of his 25 years plus of his service. I want to move on to another area. He was my partner. We did several things together. We published papers together. We supervised doctoral students at the University of Windsor, even though we didn't have a PhD program here. We were co-PIs on an NSF grant. And we consulted for companies together. He was always the superior partner. I would tag along. I was good at talking out with somebody to give a contract, but Nattu would do all the work. He was clearly the better person in terms of fulfilling our contractual obligations. Let me give you another example. I was telling a student, this is slightly mathematical, if you have a function and all its derivatives are 0, then I said the function has to be a constant. Nattu immediately went back to his office and sent me an email, Sridhar, you're wrong. Here is a function. All its derivatives at this point are 0, but it is not 0 everywhere. I said, what can I say? That's Nattu. And I was chair when he established the Intelligent Systems Club. I was initially sure, are you sure our students will come in because they're all working, most of them are working 25, 30 hours a week. If you really believe in it, start the club, let's see how it goes. We had some gift account, so we made some money available to him. Boy, did he turn it around. Just today you saw in the IAVS, the main lobby there, all the robots moving around on their own. It's almost as if every robot had a mind of its own. Sometimes it would go and hit one of those pillars, but hey, we all do that too, right? Sometimes we hit a wall and he gave life to robots. He made robots do the task. He would make them clear the snow. He would make them cut the grass. I think all of these through his students. Many of them are here. I think you should be proud of the students too. They flocked to him. They wanted to learn from him. And sometimes the students would come to me and say, can you help me? I said, if it's a robot and it's a microprocessor, please don't come to me. I said, who should I go to? Nattu. Immediate. And so students began to understand that Nattu is the go-to guy. As a chair, I would ask, if I had a problem finding a faculty member to teach a course, graduate, undergraduate, power electronics or microelectronics, control, doesn't matter. Nattu, I don't have anybody to teach this course, can you? Sure. So one time we had a problem like that, nonlinear control system. I had 23 students in the class, it's a graduate course, no instructor. I knew I would be in big trouble with the dean if I couldn't find an instructor. Nattu, please help me out. This has been my experience with Nattu. Nattu, the go-to guy. So I'm really happy that Nattu made such an impact on the department. He impacted on his colleagues, more importantly, impacted on the students, and he kind of enhanced the campus. So with that, I would like others people to think all the good things they experience with Nattu, celebrate that and be happy. Today is the day to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sridhar. Now, would there any other professors that would like to speak on Nattu's? Yeah, come on up.
Hello, my name is Paul Wada. I'm in the EC department, was a colleague of Nattu's. I've been here at Dearborn for almost 20 years now. Can you believe that, Sridhar? I've been here for almost 20 years now. I can't believe it. That time has gone by pretty fast. And I mention that because I'm having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that Professor Nattu is not going to be around anymore here. Nattu has always been there for me. He's always been here for me. From day one, Nattu has been a great mentor, and a great colleague, and a great teacher, and a great friend. Working with Nattu has been a blessing because he's one of those special type of people that when you interact with him, he brings a breath of fresh air into your life. When you see Nattu, he's bound to make you think, and he's bound to make you smile. And we shared plenty of smiles over the years. Nattu helped me in so many ways, with research issues that I was working on, with teaching issues that would come up. Academic life when I just started, he was there giving advice and everything else under the sun too. So we would talk about philosophy and stock picks and interest rates and everything. One thing I feel bad about is that I never really expressed to Nattu the depth of the gratitude that I had for all that he has done for me. But now that he's with God, I'm sure he knows. And he knows about the depth of all of our gratitude for everything that he's done for us and for our students. When Nattu went to the hospital, we were praying so hard that he would make it through and get that lung transplant and come back to Dearborn so he could be with the students that he loved. But now that you're with God, Nattu, please pray for us now. Pray that we might bring a breath of fresh air to the people that we meet during the day. And that in the most gentle way possible, we'll make people smile and make them think, just like you did. Thank you for everything, Nattu.
Would any other professors like to come up and speak?
Hello, I'm Hafiz Malik in ECE department. I've been here for roughly 8 years now. I guess this is 9th year. And I know Nattu, the person, like as everybody is saying, go-to person. I remember once, I was going through this tenure and everything, and I submitted a paper. I was talking to Paul today, and I submitted a paper, and reviewer came back and said, "You are claiming something. We need a proof of this thing." I said, "Okay." And I was just walking, and I saw Nattu. I said, "Nattu, this is the thing I'm claiming." He said, "Yeah, that's true." I said, "How can we prove it?" I said, "Okay, let's have a cup of coffee from the faculty lounge." We went there. On my way back, I went to my office and was able to complete the proof. Paper submitted, got accepted, everything. So many times he was around, and whenever young faculty need something, he was there. He was there. We are going to miss, especially the young faculty is going to miss him a lot, along as the students are also going to miss him. Okay, and once I was talking to him, he was a great intellectual also. We were talking, and he said, "I'm from India. You know that I'm from Pakistan." We're talking about all these things, cultural differences, and socio-political issues that both countries are facing, all those things. And he was telling me, when I came to Berkeley, I was in economics, okay? And we're talking about the third world problems at that time. And he taught me the economics, just maybe in 10 minutes. What is regulated economy and what is unregulated economy? Why the third world is struggling, like Pakistan. The economy over there is 70% unregulated. Everything is on cash. There's no paper trail for that. I said, "Okay, I can claim that I know something about economics now, and thanks to Nattu." So that's how he was. And I remember a lot of times I was just grabbing coffee from the office and coming back, and he was just standing with a student, and he was saying, "Hey, Hafiz, he doesn't know this thing. Can you help?" And I know that he was just want to get involved in all those kind of things. So many such pleasant moments, and his memories are going to live on forever. And I remember last summer when I saw him with that oxygen cylinder, and he said, Nattu, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine. There's a little problem that's going on. So I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, I'm fine. And last, I guess, when semester started, I guess Dean Tony England and Paul also mentioned the faculty meeting, we are facing this issue. And at that point, I came to know the severity of the situation. And I don't know, God knows that might be probably a little bit too late. I mean, I wish that I have time, I have option to go back and get to know more from Nattu and learn a lot from him also. So he was a great mentor. I remember that 2014, when I got my tenure, I received the congratulations from the faculty, and I received from the Nattu. I told him, I just said, thank you, Nattu, it is because of your help and your just mentorship that was around there. So no, you earn it. And when I was just sending him an email, I was just I really mean it. And I'm personally going to miss him as the college and the student, and I wish that we can just do something that just I guess honor to his legacy. That's what I would hope, and I'll try to do these things. Thank you.
Any other professors that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Ghassan Cridley. I'm a professor in industrial manufacturing engineering. And it's really been a pleasure to have met somebody like Nattu. We meet a lot of people as a professor, as somebody who's lived in different places. You interact with people from all over. There are people you will never forget, and because they leave an impression because of something they've done. And Nattu is definitely one of those people. So besides everything that he's done for the students and the colleagues and the faculty, you just remember his passion and remember how even, he was always willing to help others even with their classes. So when I needed help to explain an electrical concept, Nattu, can you help me come teach my class? And he would. So he would come to my class and explain it, and that's how I learned it myself. So with that said, I know how much I'm going to miss Nattu, and I know how much we all appreciate him and appreciate what he's done for us. I would say, he also was the true engineer. So he wasn't just an electrical and computer engineer or controls engineer. He was an engineer. And he always had a great solution for everything. And some of the best solutions I heard from his students. So just keep that in mind. Zip ties, duct tape, and WD-40. So these were Nattu's solutions. And with that, I really, I can't think of anything more to say, but I'm really grateful to have met somebody like Nattu, and he lives on in all of us. So thank you.
Any other professors or faculty that'd like to speak? Okay, well, I'll introduce Nattu's wife. Oh, yeah, come on up.
I'm Mahesh Agarwal from mathematics. I joined the campus in 2009, and Nattu would come for the seminars in the department. That time I did not know Nattu, and he would stay back and talk to me in my office. He had these ideas, full of ideas, and that time I was too obsessed with my own research. So I would just hear Nattu out. And I had a phone that time, and I would just take pictures because it was difficult to keep up with what he was writing on the board. And go back and look at what he was writing. So after a while, I figured out that he has just too many ideas, and I should pay some attention to what he's talking about. And we started working on a problem in the department, my chair. And I brought this up with Nattu, and Nattu, like, no, this can be done like this, like this, like this. And like, oh my God, this really looks like a good approach. We worked on it. That resolved a paper of ours. Then Nattu and myself, we decided to write 2 papers together. One was on a recessive gene that we discovered in hexagons, which was very, very interesting. And when we would work on this paper, I would get a call from Nattu, and like, this problem is driving me up the wall. This problem is driving me up the wall. And it was a standard phrase from Nattu all the time. This problem is driving me up the wall. And after a while, I would somehow say, okay, I will only be able to deal with some problems and not all the problems that Nattu has as far as things are working out. And then lately, he got obsessed with computing the digits of pi. And so I talked to him, and he had computed it to around, I think that time it was 100 million digits or something that he had computed, and on his very, very slow machine. And he was not willing to upgrade his machine. I had told him a number of times that you may be able to do much better, just upgrade the machine. He's like, no. I have to make it work on this machine. And then you meet him after a couple of months, and now he's doing it 500 million digits. And the amount of time has also reduced. And last time I met him, that time he had worked on 1 billion digits of pi, and in lesser time than he was taking earlier. So it was just so amazing meeting him, and thank you, Lalita, for allowing me. I would go to his house. We stayed fairly close by, and we would start meeting at 7 o'clock, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, and we would just keep discussing these papers. And she was so patient. Thank you so much. You shared Nattu with us, and I cannot tell you, my advisor was somebody that I really, really looked up to, and Nattu was another person. He was the better mathematician. Beyond doubt, he might have been a great engineer, but he was a better mathematician. I genuinely believe that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other faculty or professors? No? Okay, I'll introduce Nattu's wife, Alitha.
Hello, thank you for coming. I'm not a good extempore speaker, so I prepared something. I wanted to show you his love of technology, which rubbed off on me. Nattu always said we live in exciting times. He lived through the computer age and the information age. He was the least materialistic person I know, but loved new technology. I remember back, way back, he was the first to buy a VCR so I could watch movies. He was the first to buy a camcorder so he could record movies of my daughter. He bought the first cell phone. I remember it was the size of twice of my handbag. He enjoyed playing video games when my daughter was young. His first Macintosh and Commodore computers are still in my basement. He was first to buy a multimedia computer that my son played with. In fact, my son's first words were multimedia applications that the computer used to say when it booted up. He bought floppy disks by the dozens because he was fond of programming. He programmed for fun and wrote very clever programs. Floppy disks turned to CD-ROMs, then to flash drives. Paper records became electronic records, thank God, as I used to complain about 8-bit papers being everywhere. He scanned and saved everything on the cloud. He kept up with new technology and was like a kid with a new toy. He was fascinated by 3D printers and bought one for the university and let the students play with it. He gave me a bracelet printed by the 3D printer. I was so impressed that my daughter, my son, and I came to the university to see it, and stayed most of the night watching it print. His love of robotics started at the onset of year 2000. He and his students participated in IGVC at Orlando, Florida. He took us along with him. I knew he was doing something exciting, but I was more interested in going to Disney World. He took me to a couple of competitions in Canada. It was a line follower robot, and we saw some incredibly cute and fast robots. I was so impressed. When my son was in middle school, he took me and my son to a firefighting robot competition at Trinity College in Connecticut. They had built an aerial view of a house with rooms and had a candle burning in one of the rooms. The purpose of the competition was to navigate through the rooms, sense the fire, and put it out. I was so impressed with the creativity of the competitors. Autonomous vehicles branched to autonomous lawnmower competitions, autonomous snowplowing competitions, chores he hated to do. I did not go to any of them, but he showed me his competition videos, which were interesting to watch. One day, when I found ants on the kitchen floor, I complained and told him to build a robot that detected food on the kitchen floor and vacuum it. A few days later, he very proudly bought me a Roomba. He always made me laugh, and our dog used to run after the Roomba, barking madly, much to our delight. He was ahead of the times and thought robotics would be the next wave of invention. He was committed to the Intelligent Systems Club and spent a great deal of time helping them. Maybe he sensed his time on Earth was short. He saw some students who were lost in lectures come alive in the club. He understood that the students learned best by doing. There was a post on Facebook by one of his students that he tried to recruit her to the club as he sensed she was bright. He wanted more girls in the club. He fought so hard to get new lungs so he could surprise everyone. Knowing Nattu, I thought he might make it, even though the odds were so low. I regret that he did not live to see self-driving cars and household robots become commonplace, as I suspect will be in a decade or so. I hope the club continues to grow and inspire the students. We might have lost Nattu, but we can keep his memory alive by supporting the club. Thank you.
The university wants to present you with this memorial plaque from Nattu.
Okay,
Make sure to grab it from the bottom.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is lovely.
It lights up too. There's
Oh,
a cord over
nice.
there. I just didn't plug it in.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
There's a plug?
Yeah.
There's a-